week's segment is all about the People's Party of Canada and Maxime Bernier's vision for Canada. Now you can read through the entire platform at peoplespartyofcanada.ca, but it is a long one with 13 sections. First section is about giving our veterans the respect and compensation they deserve. Now remember back when Trudeau said that veterans were asking for more than he was willing to give? Well, a Bernier government would not only simplify the Veterans Charter and make it easier to navigate, they would reinstate the fair disability pension and apply it retroactively to 2006. The next three sections are all about immigration, and it read a lot like Derek Fildebrandt's Freedom Conservative platform back in the Alberta election. Now, I liked a lot of the FCP's ideas, so this section showed a lot of promise. Right off the bat, the PPC would reduce the amount of immigrants from 350,000 to between 100 and 150,000. Any new Canadians would also have to be carefully screened and would require a face-to-face interview. Now, the number of new immigrants into Canada would also depend on our economy. If we have less work, then there would be less immigrants, and they would make sure that any new workers coming into Canada wouldn't be competing unfairly with Canadian workers. The PPC would also withdraw completely from the UN Migration Compact. Now, when it comes to refugees and illegal border crossers, the PPC would declare the entire Canada-US border a port of entry, and then they'd build a fence where illegal border crossing is prevalent. So Maxime Bernier would build a wall. CSIS, the RCMP, Canadian Immigration and Citizenship, would see a massive boost in their resources so they could do the face-to-face interviews and very thorough background checks on anyone wanting to live in our country. The PPC's next section got me excited. Pipelines, allowing our oil and gas sector to grow. Now, as a proud energy family, I have been disgusted at how the Trudeau Liberals have completely destroyed the industry that puts food on my table. This part of the PPC platform will remind you a lot of Jason Kenney's plan and his demands of Ottawa, especially since Bernier would go after anti-oil propaganda from environmentalist groups and foreign-funded foundations. This is exactly what Jason Kenney's war room is doing. Bills C-48 and C-69 would go and the pipeline approval process would be streamlined. Bernier would also demand that the Trans Mountain Pipeline be sold back to private investors. When it comes to the environment, the PPC would get rid of the carbon tax and focus more on finding practical solutions for lowering our emissions. A PPC government would also withdraw from the Paris Climate Accord. One thing we've heard Bernier talk about for years is the supply management on our dairy, poultry, and eggs. Now, I have kids and they drink an average of a gallon of milk a day. That gallon out here costs me $7. So when I multiply that by 30, I'm spending over $200 on milk alone a month. So to save families like mine money, the PPC would gradually phase out the supply management system. This would also allow our farmers to sell their products internationally. But phasing this out won't be easy because of these quotas that the farmers have to hit. So the federal government would compensate these farmers for lost quotas. When it comes to healthcare, the PPC government would make it up to the provinces and territories to lower wait times and just do better in general. They would also be 100% responsible for healthcare funding. Another hot topic in this election, thanks to Trudeau's announcement last week, is firearms, whereas Trudeau is saying that he would ban all semi-automatic rifles, a plan that will not deter violent gun crime because, let's face it, criminals do not buy their guns legally. Trudeau's plan will only punish law-abiding gun-owning citizens. The PPC would prioritize improving public safety and fighting crime with new legislation that would replace the Firearms Act. Now, those who have committed a crime would not be able to buy a firearm. And those firearm categories would be based on function, not on looks or political pandering for votes. Restrictions would be based on criminal deterrence. Another hot topic, particularly here in Alberta, is the equalization system. You know, that unfair system that funnels billions of our hard-earned dollars over to provinces that say they are entitled to it? Under the PPC, that system would not be gone, and I doubt that any political party would dare threaten to do so, especially since we all know that the provinces that receive the most in equalization are the ones who decide who our next prime minister will be. But the formula would be changed, so these have-not provinces would have more incentives to be less dependent on federal funds. Overall, I was surprisingly impressed by the PPC's platform. Did I find it lacking in some areas? Sure I did, but it is a very detailed plan that shows a lot of promise. It will be interesting to see Maxime Bernier in the debate October 1st, but I think the party has some big hurdles to overcome, particularly when it comes to the public's perception of them and infighting in between their candidates. The party as a whole is polling low, and according to Canada 338, they're sitting at about 3%, but Maxime Bernier's approval rating is sitting at 17%. We have a long ways to go between now and October 21st, and I don't see the PPC making enough headway to form government or opposition. But one thing is for sure in this election: expect the unexpected.